It's BB and Didi, we know you have been waiting, so here's another podcast about movies. Burn after watching.
Welcome to the Burn After Watching podcast. I'm Alex. I'm Borderland. I don't know why I'm using my real name now, but I am. And today we are joined by
Dan. I also go by Dan.
our good friend Dan. Oscar season is like starting. Like all the film, the contenders will start coming out.
Yeah.
And it's technically, I think, the first good film we are reviewing, me and you.
It's been a while. It's been a bit of a dry season.
Summer was there was some good film, but I think it was rough overall. There's a lot of good film coming out. I'm excited to get back into it. So today we are talking about Sing Sing, directed by Greg Quedar. I'm not sure how to say the name, with Coleman Domingo. Before we talk about that, subscribe, find us, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, every podcast platform. We should be there. If we're not there, what are you listening on? You know, like get to one of the big one. We there. So I saw that you saw Didi, which is a film I want to see. Still not out anywhere in my market. I'm in a way smaller market than you. You're able to see it in Toronto. Thoughts?
It's good. It's in my, I know at some point I'm gonna have to whittle down to a top 5, but it's in my top 10. It's very good. It's a coming of age tale. I think the director's name is like either Sean Wang or something like that, or at least I believe that's a character's name. But it's about a 13-year-old boy who lives in California who's trying to fit in. It's very relatable. If I think for everybody, you don't have to be just Asian. It's about like you just growing up, trying to find your own voice. You have your friends, but you also want to fit in. There's like such hard cringe, like AOL texting. But it was so funny, so delightful. And it's just like angst. It's you trying new things to fit in with an older crowd. It's you trying to impress a girl, and it's your friends being like dicks about it. It's very funny. It's very nostalgic. The poster vibes gives you I thought Jonah Hill directed a movie called like 80s or 90s. Mid-90s. It's like the same aesthetic. You're fighting with your parents all the time. You're trying to find your independence. But it's really good. It makes you think about family. It makes you think about maintaining relationships, be it friendships, romantic, or everything in between. And it's highly recommend. I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And it made me cry like heavy, which is a good foreshadowing for the rest of this podcast. But highly recommend. It's in my list of like best coming of age movies of all time.
Nice, very nice. So it's from the same director that did that documentary about his grandmothers. Is that right? Last year?
Yeah.
I thought you'd seen that. I didn't see it.
I did see. It's like Popo and Nai. It's about 2 grandmothers, which is like 17 minutes of just everything is coming out of you. It's anywhere there's water, it's coming out of your body. But that makes a lot of sense because you can see those same like themes of the importance of family and taking care of them, and not losing like who you are. So great stuff all around. Huge recommendations.
Nice. And so do you think it has chance? So my top 5 hasn't moved until today, until Sing Sing. Since for like, I think like 4 months, like nothing wasn't even touching it. Maybe like top 5, top 10, top 15, I had a few things, but nothing has moved the needle. But like that's for sure, you think, in your top 10 by the end of the year? Didi?
Yeah, I 100%. I was going to ask what's in your top 5, but I think like right now for me, I'm at Didi's within the top 5. I still have Dune Part 2. I've got Monkey Man. There's a movie that I watched with Channing Tatum and
Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh my god! I didn't think it'd be so good, but it was so good. Yeah, that was my crazy pick. I'm sure I stand alone, in my top 10. But yeah, Monkey Man, Didi, Dune, Sing Sing, Love's Lies Bleeding, and Fly Me to the Moon. Didi will most definitely, 95% sure it will stick around.
Nice. I have Dune Part 2, I have Sing Sing, I have Love Lies Bleeding, and everything below that is below 4-star. So most actually no, Lisa Frankenstein is 4-star. I need to rewatch that though. I feel like maybe I rated it a bit high, but it's really good. It's definitely right now my number 4, and then Kinds of Kindness is my number 5 right now, but it's at 3.5 out of 5. So I mean, it would be kind of like a really bad couple of months if nothing beats that. And like, I know Nosferatu, I mean, it could be bad, but like, I'm expecting a 4-star plus. And Conclave, I don't know if did you see the trailer for Conclave before Sing Sing?
Conclave, give me. I don't think so. Give me a description.
It's like the Pope die, and then like, and then the like under suspicious, but whatever. It's basically the priest has to like elect a new pope. It's with Ralph Fiennes.
Nice. Voldemort.
And Stanley Tucci is also in there. It's from the director of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh yes, yeah, great movie.
The Netflix war movie. Great movie. Yeah, so it's his new film, and it's all about like the politics and the power dynamic of like, I don't know, 200 cardinal trying to elect a new pope. But it's it's based on a book, and it's kind of like an intrigue, kind of people fucking themselves over to like get to be pope. Look at the trailer. It's called Conclave. I'll send it to you after this. It looks amazing. Highly, highly anticipated for me. I mean, there's so many good things. I actually updated our calendar.
I was just gonna ask, what are you looking forward to outside of Nosferatu and now Conclave? Are there any other big ones?
Yeah, so this month in September, there's Megalopolis, which I'm hearing terrible thing, but it's the new Frank Coppola film that he self-financed. So I'm interested. I don't think it's gonna be good. Like, I heard very mid stuff. The film Wolf, which is the Apple TV Plus film.
It's like pushing hard. Trailers for a year, but I'm still looking forward to it.
But they pulled it out from theater. They're not going to release it anymore. Like, it had terrible review at the Venice Film Festival, and they just said, we're going to push it straight to Apple TV instead.
Wow.
So that's not a good sign.
That's not good.
Then there's a movie called A Different Man that looks interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
SNL, which I think like is I think it's called Saturday Night. Technically,
I think so. Yeah.
That looks interesting. I know it's more maybe a you than me, but I'm still interested. There's a movie called A Real Pain, which is Jesse Eisenberg. He's directing, and it's from the dude from Succession, one of the actors from Succession. Apparently, it's amazing. Apparently, like, the performances are great. Apparently, there's a lot of cringe there too. It's kind of hard to watch sometimes, but looks interesting. Then obviously there's Nora, which won Palme d'Or at Cannes. So like that's gonna be a potential player. Conclave, like I said. Gladiator 2, I'm not expecting much, but maybe. Then there's a movie Night Bitch with Amy Adams.
It's a good name.
It's like Amy Adams becomes a mother, and then like the feral power of motherhood makes her transform into a dog at night. It looks crazy. And then there's Baby Girl, which is a movie with Nicole Kidman that looks interesting. Nosferatu releasing on Christmas Day, and also releasing on Christmas Day is the biopic of Bob Dylan with Timothée Chalamet.
That looks good.
So yeah, I mean, those are the big one. I'm sure there's gonna be a bunch of things that we don't even know about, but that's a big lineup. I think there's for sure 3 very good, and we haven't heard about all the international film yet, like the big international player. Like last year, Perfect Days, all of those I saw in like January or February because it was impossible to get them until they got nominated.
Yeah, there's the only 2 other ones that I bring up. There's like an animated movie coming up. I can't remember what it's called. It's either like Omni Robot or something, but like
The Wild Robot.
Yes, the robot is like it gets lost and now it's in the wilderness. It looks really good. Then I saw one during Sing Sing. It has Tom Hanks and
it's called Here.
Yes. It's like that's one frame of the house.
Never move. Yeah.
And then it's just a constant, and it's got what's that in
Robin
Forrest
Wright?
Gump? Yeah. What's her name again? It's
Robin Wright.
Robin Wright.
So she's the same girl from Princess Bride.
Oh,
Plays the princess. Yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, "Who's this act?" Because I watched Princess Bride for the first time recently.
Oh wow!
And I was like, I wonder where those actors and actresses are now. And then like I looked her up, and I was like, oh, it's the girl from House of Cards. Huh. She's the wife in House of Cards too.
All right, learn something new every day.
It's all the same girl, apparently.
Yeah, man. Wild.
Yeah, so Tom Hanks and her reuniting after. The thing is, Robert Zemeckis is the director, and he's the one that I think he did the last Pinocchio for like Disney.
Oh,
he tends to like love to do the aging face, and you can tell they're doing it, and often. It's all about that. It's just about like doing cool stuff with tech instead of like a good story. So I'm optimistic, but I don't know. Also, like it's cool that one plan never move, and it seems like they go throughout like the entire history of the world.
Yeah.
But I wonder if eventually I'll be like, all right, like I feel like the gimmick is I don't know how long it is, but I feel like eventually the gimmick could kind of run, and it's like, all right, it's kind of getting boring now. Who knows?
Yeah, you got to hope for 90 minutes. Like 2 hours, I'm sure you'll start losing interest real quick.
No movies are 90 minutes anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. I mean, Sing Sing is 100 minutes, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
It's a great timeline.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. So I heard about this movie. It plays at TIFF last year, so a year ago. It's finally getting released. And Coleman Domingo was like the big thing. I kept hearing Coleman Domingo is coming for the Oscar in 2025. It was already nominated this year for last year performance in Rustin, which I didn't even see. But I don't think he had like big chances. So that's all I knew. I knew like it's called Sing Sing. It has Coleman Domingo. People are hyped about his performance.
Yeah.
For some reason, because it's called Sing Sing, I was expecting a musical.
Oh yeah.
I knew it was around theater, but I thought like musical theater. But it's just straight up theater. And basically, the story is we are following a group of prisoner that are in the Sing Sing prison, and it's called Sing Sing because. I looked it up. The territory that it's set on used to be native land, and like the native word for that land was like Shin Shin, and then like it just got translated to Sing Sing in English. And it's a true story about how some prisoner kind of found a way to find themselves, but also like escape a bit from the reality of prison. Through theater, and also like help each other kind of go through kind of prison. And we follow Divine G, who's played by Coleman Domingo, who's the main character, who is a real person.
Yeah.
Who actually made it out and wrote the film. And actually, I didn't know this because I looked it up after again. And at the beginning of the film, there's a dude that is like, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" That's him. That's the real Divine G, which is kind of cool. Because when it was happening, I was like, that seems so out of nowhere. Like didn't make sense to me. But obviously, it was just like a wink, wink. This is the real dude, which is really cool. Before we go into past this point, we're gonna be spoiling the film. We're gonna be talking about everything. So if you haven't seen it, you can wait. There's not a major spoiler, but obviously it's a true story, so you could technically find the story out there. But we will talk about everything. Awesome. Dan, going into the film, what was your expectation? What did you know? What did you wanted? Paint a picture.
I knew it was going to be like a sad movie. I knew that they were prisoners. I knew they were in a rehab theater program where, it was all about connecting and like trying to be humans. That's like the gist of what I knew. I knew it was like going in. I was telling my partner Colleen, I was like, we're gonna cry. It's like 1,000% guarantee it's gonna be a sad movie. But we went in. Colleen's a big crier.
Okay.
Colleen's we match our crying levels.
Nice.
But what I didn't know was like Colleen really loves like Hamlet and Shakespeare.
Oh.
So she was connecting on ways that I couldn't connect, and laughing at things where there's like a scene where Clarence, who's like the thug, he was describing Hamlet in Greece, and then he's like, oh, I forgot that we're changing the storylines. But really well done. The characters were really good. Even like the thing at the end that where it's revealed that the co-stars are all either active prisoners or former prisoners. They were doing pretty well. I would not have guessed that they were like active members or previous members of the RTA.
Yeah, basically it's not a. You could see it coming. I wasn't sure until the point where they start auditioning for the play, and the way it was shot like an interview or like a documentary, and I was like, wait, are those the real people? And like I was suspicious, but yeah. So basically, like I think almost every single co-star, like supporting roles, are playing themselves. So they are prisoner and they are playing themselves. I don't know how much of like those have been rewritten, or if it's all like true and they all they were all there at the same time or something like that, or like it's just a kind of reconstructed story. But like, to be honest, like Coleman Domingo is great. I think he's
fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But there's no weak link in the cast. Everyone, and I would say some supporting, I would say are even better than Coleman Domingo, because they had a lot. Coleman Domingo has a lot to do, but I feel like some of the character had a lot more interesting or difficult situation to navigate as an actor. And I think that Clarence is a good one. The guy Mike, also had some really good time. The bigger guy that do the speech about like, you have anger, you feel angry, but like really what it is, it's pain. And like I've been the guy you are right now until I saw a guy like get his throat cut in front of me, and this is where I realized like, what am I doing? That guy was excellent,
real good
overall, man. Like I feel like you can nominate almost anybody to be, even like the counselor, director guy, the white dude. I love that they barely even like talk about him, but and that's something I liked about the film. It's so focused on its message. It could go in multiple directions and get lost. Like the director or the white guy that is kind of guiding them, who looks like rough and like most likely he was in prison at some point. I would believe from like the way that he look and he carry himself. Yeah, this guy you know nothing about, and I feel like you could have spent an entire half the film talking about his story, but they don't even address it because they are so focused on the right things. And I really like how focused it is on the theme.
Yeah, like I know for a fact, like the counselor, he is an actor. He was in the movie The Sound of Metal, where he plays another guidance counselor, and he's obviously done really well for himself in that role. But like there's a lot of like great messages, right? It's all these men coming together who have lived hard lives, be it exteriorly or interiorly. There's a lot of like demons that they're going through, but even throughout the movie where they're talking about like men need to talk to each other, like we are here together, I'm here to support you, there's those themes are like pushing pretty hard on like men's mental health, which is a very important topic to talk about. And I can almost tell like immediately when I saw Mike, I was like, okay, so Mike is like, everybody loves him. He's the supporting cast member. He's your right hand. He's your Robin. I knew he was going to go, because in a lot of these movies, the person that you like the most, that you connect to, who's a side character, usually goes. And I predicted that really early on. I just didn't predict the way he was going to go. I thought that was... I just couldn't tell if brain aneurysm of like how he like died was the actual reason, or if that was the prison's way of covering, because they didn't allude to like him having any health issues at all, and it just like was so sudden.
I think I read it as if this was the real reason. I was confused a bit at first, but I think it makes more sense when you think about the scene happen where you just stop replying, right? Like, if he would have actually hanged himself, like they kind of mention as something like, oh, you know, someone hanged themselves, you can kind of understand that, and this you can't. And then a brain aneurysm, I don't even know what it is. Like, I think what I like actually is that it doesn't feel cliche. I feel like if he would have committed suicide, it's very much expected in those kind of film that like, oh, okay, like that's what it is. But to me, like it felt a bit more real and a bit like less dramatic. So I like that. It's interesting to think like, is this the reason that the prison told him? But it's not the thing. But I don't know, because like I feel like the like Coleman Domingo, like Divine G, was his neighbor. He could have he had a little trap to see through. To each other, so he would have seen that it's not the reason. He would have seen him hang, or you know, however he would have killed himself. He would have seen that. So I think it has to be true.
It's there's a lot of things that I didn't pick up on. One of it's where, you know, like Coleman's like place where he can like calm down. It's like a little it looks like an opening of a stairwell. And when he's looking out of the cage and he sticks his hand out, it's all blurry. You actually can't see what he's looking at until the end of the movie. When he's actually out, it pans to his little safe place and you can see finally that he's looking out into like the grass and the fields and the water tower. But you actually can't see what he's looking at in the beginning because it's a sense of loss. And it kind of connects to when Clarence is trying to prepare for his parole, and he's like, maybe it's better that I stay in here. My son is here, like I run this place, I don't know what it's going to be like outside, and it's like the system trying to push you down. So I kind of connected like prison trying to treat inmates as just prisoners and not actually humans, and their disconnection between the real world and what they currently see. So there's a lot of like beautiful messages. Like the whole thing was just like you said, there's no weak links. There was no like bad parts. I thought it was just flowed very well, and just a lot of good things across the board.
100%. And like all the themes you just mentioned are baked in everywhere. Like I think one thing they did very well is that it's easy to, when you like start a film with prisoner, to start saying like, oh, well, I don't like them. They're prisoner. They did probably something bad. And they almost never mention, except for a few people, why they're in prison. So you get to know them, and the people that you know why they're in prison, you learn it way later. And I think it means that you cannot judge them based on action. You have to like judge them based on who they are, and you get to know them first. And I think that's really interesting because it gives you the time to like attach yourself to someone that if you were told, well, this is a criminal and that's why he killed someone, it would have been a lot harder. Like you would have started with like your wall up. And I think that was very smart to like this idea of like give people a chance, right? And like allow people to be people, not just a representation of their actions. So the film actually carry that theme and actually deliver on it. And I think that even like Clarence, like, is it interesting because because he's the guy coming into the theater kind of like group for the first time. So you get he wanted to come in, and then they go ask him, why do you want to come in? And he still have his wall up with the other men. So he said, oh, I just want to go because you guys have girls over there. So you can tell that like he's trying to like put up this persona, and a lot of them do. But actually at the end, he admit that like, I was an artistic kid. I used to be like, I used to paint, and my mother, and he wanted to go because he's artistic, but he didn't want to say that. So he has to put up this persona of the tough guy. And even at the beginning, you see him racketing money and asking for a guy for like money that he owed him. And by the time at the end of the film that the money comes back to him, he's a totally different man. And then you can see the money kind of like is set in front of him by the other guy, and the other guy walk away. And he's like, it's almost as if he doesn't understand why the money is coming to him, because he's a totally different person now. And he can't 100%. Recognize the person that asked for the money in the first place.
Yeah, it's Clarence is almost a mimic of Divine G, because before Mike passes away, Divine G talks about like when he was growing up, he did ballet and he loves to dance, but he got beat up because of it. And Clarence is almost to the same pedigree. When Clarence goes to jail, his like gang or his people protects his son, and you would just think it's for protection, but obviously because of the environment you're in, the son becomes a gangster and ends up in prison as well. Yeah. So it's very beautiful how they flip the script, because when Divine G has like that breakdown, and when he like yells during the day before opening, it's not the day before opening night, but during like the warm up, he breaks out at like Leslie, who's playing the Pharaoh. The play itself is so confusing. It's just them having fun. It's just like, I want Egyptians, I want pirates, I want space travel. It's very cute, but it's just very interesting how like they can pull him right back in. Right, Divine G is now broken down. He gets that fat envelope when he gets turned down by the judge, and I can tell you, like, that moment when Divine G is talking to the judge and trying to make a case for himself. Oof. And there's a line that she uses where it's like, what's your involvement in the RTA? And he's like, I direct, and because I was like a founding member, I help bring people in and I act sometimes. And when she's like, so are you acting right now? It was just like a dagger to the freaking heart.
Yes. So like, it's so devastating because he's trying to do some good, and he's trying to do everything to help each other. And the system is using that against him, or they try to use it against him. It's like, now it's a weapon that you do something good. Now, like for us, it's just a way to say, you might be lying right now.
Exactly. It's exactly that. But I think when Divine G breaks down, like Clarence comes back in and brings him back up. And I think that's just like almost like the evolution or the development, kind of like what you were saying when Clarence gets like that money back. It just doesn't mean anything to him anymore. He's a completely different person. And because he met Divine G, he was able to go outside to the real world and become something of himself instead of going back to his roots.
And I also love that like you have multiple like full circle in the film and cycles where like you have Clarence as his son, but even when Divine G gets released, a new young man is in the cell next to him where Mike used to be, and it gets to this point where it's like he used to be able to help when he's inside, and how he has to go outside where he has no idea what's waiting for him. Yeah. And it's like, first of all, nothing was solved. Young men are still coming in and getting like put in jail. So he didn't solve anything. He gets released, but it's bittersweet because he might not be able to help people as much outside than inside. Technically, he's working himself to a corner where he might be more valuable inside. At least that's probably what he's thinking about when he's leaving. That's why it's kind of still difficult to leave. And I think there's like super interesting message there of just like, really nothing is solved, but like you have some character that like redeemed himself, and like you said, like technically, like I guess Coleman Domingo was not guilty. Like it was like not a setup, but like he was wrongfully convicted. Yeah, which I don't even think you need that aspect. You could be like actually a killer, and I think like the film still works. But I think they really focus on the theme. Like, I think there's a lot of cliche you can fall into. Like, even at the beginning when they were like chilling in like the kind of the outdoor kind of like place, I was thinking like, and I had this feeling like if someone's about to get stabbed every 5 seconds, like I was like, okay, like this is a scene in the cafeteria, and like someone's gonna come. And I feel like it was too obvious. Like even when they mentioned that Clarence is carrying a knife, I was like, oh, is this? I feel like they're setting it up for something later. Yeah, but they don't. And I really like that they don't allow themselves to like be cliche and do those scenes that people expect, but focus on what is needed for the story to like resonate and like be what it needs to be, deliver the message. Yeah. Really solid.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things you said earlier where it's just like, as an audience member, you want to connect with the individual peoples. There was a scene where the counselor or the director of this program is telling everyone to close their eyes. And Clarence at this point in the beginning of the film doesn't want to like do this like weak stuff, right? He's like, I'm not here to like be vulnerable. But the exercise was like, close your eyes and like figure out, like, picture your perfect day. And one of the older white guys, like white hair, probably Italian or something, he's talking about like taking his wife to a picnic. And they're talking about like getting sodas or something. Like he must have drank like 4 of them. And you really connect with this individual. Then you realize the reality is his wife passed away 6 weeks ago. With Mike, he's picturing like this beautiful island where his uncles and like nephews and cousins are. But he can't actually picture it because he was never there. And his reality is the system. It's prison. And I think what this movie, or one of the messages this movie is really trying to push, is like the penal system is probably not as good as anyone would imagine. It's actually
it's fucked.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And you really, really start to question, like, prison is supposed to be there to obviously punish, but also rehabilitate people.
Mm-hmm.
The RTA, and it sounds like many other programs, I also did some reading on Wikipedia, but there's many programs like the RTA out there that's not just like theater. It's like sports and something else. Like there's ways to get your like GED, to get your diploma in high school. But something is obviously happening where it's not enough. And it almost gave me like, I thought for a second this was going to pull like a Shawshank Redemption, where in Shawshank, that old guy who has like the little bird or the mouse or whatever, he leaves and he tries to come back in because the outside world is almost too scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were alluding to that with Clarence a little bit, where he's just like, you know, prison's like my place. And I thought they're going to go down that route, but to your point, they don't want to do the obvious. You know, when Divide and G is finally out and Clarence comes to pick him up, which was, I thought, extremely beautiful. But
I wish the movie ended there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because there's a few places where the movie feel like it's about to end.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt this, but when they walk for the play, right? And then like you get the blinding light. I was like, okay, this is it. And then I assumed they would cut. They started cutting to real footage of people in prison doing like of the real program. So I was like, okay, that's it. Great, great ending, awesome. And then it keeps going, and you see him like and get out of jail, and you see Clarence and Divine G meeting up and shitting the. And one other thing too, this movie's super funny.
It's so good,
and you would not expect it. And it's not funny in like a dumb way. It's funny, just situationally like funny. Just things happen in a funny way because you have like tough guy doing Hamlet and stuff like this, and it's just there's a bunch of funny moments. That it's not just a joke, haha, it's just well done. And at the end, when Clarence G and Divine G and Clarence meet, they talk about their car that he has now, and they're kind of shooting the shit. I was like, okay, that's a great ending. And then there's just one more scene where they play for the first time a song with like a singer or like lyrics.
Yeah.
And you just see him kind of like enjoy kind of, in the car with the window down, kind of like his face in the wind, which I think is a good ending. It's reminded me of like Perfect Day ending 100%. A little bit. I don't mind it. I think I would have rather end by like 10% better at the Clarence and Divine G like shooting the shit about the car, because it feels like it's about the small thing, and why I thought this would be a great ending, which for me the time that I cried the most was the dude talking about his dog, the dog story, where there's this guy that has been released and come back to talk to them, like a friend, and he come to visit them, and he basically tell them that about his life, and it's just like, I work long hours, but the fact that I can just go out at night, have a beer, eat some food, and I just take my car and I just drive for hours. And it's like this kind of like, it almost feel like blissful, like how simple life can be amazing. But then he basically say something like, I had this dog and I didn't know it was sick, and she passed away. Her name was Girly. And she was the only person when I came home, she was happy to see me.
Oh,
and like God. That moment was devastating to me, because it's like such a little goal in life and little things. And I think another message is like this idea of like, those guys are in prison, they still make the best out of it. They make the best out of it, and they are optimistic. And it's like, you have this opportunity to not be in jail, most likely, if you've seen the movie. Like, go enjoy the little things. And I think like that's what kind of this character is saying. Is like you have those little things that once they're gone, and it's a simple message, but like it really get like delivered like well into this. And I thought that's why like the little like, oh, look at my car, isn't it a nice car, blah blah blah, and what you're wearing, like that would have been a nice kind of like little things moment to like finish on. But very happy with the ending still.
Yeah, very happy with the ending. I just wanted to mention, like, you talking about the funny scenes. One of the funniest scenes that I can remember is they're all in the hallway in this, like, before they enter the auditorium. And the director's like, okay, the superintendents are here. We really got to wow them so we can get these curtains. And they're like, we want to go in there, be savages. And they're like, savage! And they run to the screen into like the play area, and they're fighting with swords, and they're like, blah! And it's like these 4 frail women. And they're like killing each other with their like paper swords. And the big guy comes back in. I assume he's some kind of security or something. He's like, you guys really had to choose that scene. But it was very good. I gave it, I think, a 4.5 stars. I thought this is probably one of the movies that leaves like a lasting impression. Obviously it's a bit more emotional, and there's things that you connect to as an audience member, but this one, like, it's like really punches you in the stomach, and like the feeling was lingering even after leaving the movie theater. It was just so heavy, but also delightful. And, you know, it's good when Divine is crying into Clarence's arms. Like, that's probably where everything was just letting go. So killer movie.
Solid. Yeah, I was debating between 4.5 and 4. I landed on the 4, but I think like I just maybe rewatched it once and it's going to be a 4.5, but it's right. Like, ideally it would be 8.5. Which is like impossible on Letterboxd. But yeah, excellent. So I think big recommend for me. If you can, go see it. Thank you for joining. We will be coming back in October with Dan. We have a special weekly schedule of horror film, which we both hate horror film. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be just a lot of us talking about how we couldn't sleep for an entire month. But yeah, so join us, subscribe. Tons of things coming up. Have a good one.
Take care.
Gucci.